All right, so I'm guessing you've got that copy of The Lean Startup nearby, right? Ready to dive into the world of startup success.
Definitely. And what's really striking about this book is how it throws out the old rule book. It's not about rigid plans, it's about, well, experimenting,
Yeah.
figuring out what works specifically for your idea.
Yeah, I love how the book talks about ditching the rocket ship for a Jeep. You got to be ready to navigate that rough terrain, always adapting.
Exactly. That's where validated learning comes in. It's not enough to just have a hunch. You have to get out there and test it, see what real customers think.
Like Zappos did, right? They created that fake online shoe store just to see if people would actually buy anything. Talk about going the extra mile.
Absolutely. That's the power of validated learning in action. They proved their idea before they even had a fully functional site. Imagine the resources they saved.
It's such a crucial lesson for anyone starting out. You don't want to pour your heart and soul into something that might not even resonate.
Right. And speaking of things that are crucial, the lean startup emphasizes two really important hypotheses: the value hypothesis and the growth hypothesis. So with the value hypothesis, you're basically asking, does your product actually solve a real problem? Something people actually care about.
It's not enough to just be a cool idea. It has to have that real world impact, make life easier or better in some way.
Exactly. Then you've got the growth hypothesis. Can your solution reach beyond those early adopters? Can you scale it up to a larger market?
Like, it's one thing to sell to your friends and family who'll support you no matter what, but it's another to build a sustainable business, right?
Exactly. You need both a great product and a way to reach those eager customers. Facebook's a prime example. They tapped into something people really wanted, that addictive quality, and then strategically targeted growth in those early days. And, well, you know the rest of the story.
That's incredible, but it can feel a bit overwhelming too, right? I mean, building something like Facebook takes serious resources and time.
That's where the beauty of the minimal viable product comes in, or as it's more commonly known, the MVP. The idea is to get your product in front of users as soon as possible, even if it's a stripped-down version.
So basically, you're saying ditch the fancy extras for now and focus on that core value.
Exactly. The MVP is all about rapid feedback and iteration. Get it out there, see how people react, and then refine and improve based on that real-world data.
It's like getting that early feedback on a draft, right? Instead of waiting to the very end to see if you're on the right track.
Exactly. And, sometimes that MVP isn't even like a physical product or anything. Think about Dropbox, for example.
Wait, Dropbox, they had an MVP. I never knew that.
Oh, yeah, they're a classic example. Their MVP wasn't some fancy software. It was actually just a video.
Seriously, just a video. That's all it took to get them started.
It was enough to show people what they were all about, prove that there was a need for what they were offering. I think they went from a few hundred signups to thousands overnight just from that video. Talk about managing risk, right?
Right. It's like testing the waters before you dive in headfirst.
And that brings us to a really key part of the lean startup, that build, measure, learn loop. Honestly, it's such a valuable concept for anyone, not just startups.
Okay, so break it down for us. What exactly is the build, measure, learn loop?
Well, it's all about this ongoing cycle. You build something, even if it's just a basic version, then you see how well it works, you measure it, and then you use what you learned to make it better. And then you just keep doing that.
It's like they say fail fast, fail often, right? But it's not really about failing, more about learning and improving constantly.
Yeah, exactly. It's about constantly experimenting, always looking for ways to do things better. And, the lean startup talks about split testing as a really effective way to do this.
Split testing, right? Isn't that where you try out different versions of something to see which one does better?
Yeah, like those old mail order companies used to do. They'd have different versions of their catalogs with different headlines or pictures, even different colored buttons, all to see what got the best response.
It's like having different fishing lures to see which one attracts more fish.
Exactly. And these days, it's easier than ever with websites and email and all that. You can test out all kinds of different things.
So it's really about letting the data guide you, making decisions based on what you're seeing, not just what you think might work.
Absolutely. But sometimes the data might show that you need to make a bigger change, a real shift in direction. And that's where the whole idea of the pivot comes in.
The pivot, huh? That sounds a little scary, like you're changing everything you planned.
It can be a little daunting, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not about giving up. It's more like being flexible and adapting to what you're learning, like Groupon, for example.
For Pawn, weren't they always about those daily deals and stuff?
Actually, no. They started off doing something totally different, something with activism and fundraising, I think. But they were smart and realized they needed to change things up, so they pivoted.
Wow, that's quite a pivot. It really shows that even big, successful companies, they don't always get it right on the first try.
Exactly. The lean startup is all about being okay with making changes, even big ones, if that's what the data is telling you. Sometimes it's the smartest thing you can do.
So we're doing all these experiments, gathering all this data, but how do we even know what to focus on? What's important?
That's where it's so important to avoid those, what does the book call them? Vanity metrics.
Vanity metrics. Now, those sound dangerous, like you're being fooled by something that looks good but isn't really that meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. They might seem impressive on the surface, but they don't actually translate into real progress. Like, I don't know, having tons of followers on social media who never buy anything or lots of website traffic that doesn't convert looks good, but is it really helping?
So it's really about digging a little deeper, figuring out what truly moves the needle for your business,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Instead of vanity metrics, focus on the stuff that really matters, like paying customers, how long they stick around, that kind of thing. The Lean Startup talks about something called cohort analysis, which I think you might find interesting.
Cohort analysis. That rings a bell, but I can't say I'm totally familiar. Sounds kind of intimidating, honestly.
Oh, it's not that bad, really. It's just a way of looking at your customers, but instead of lumping them all together, you divide them into groups, like based on when they started using your product.
So you're segmenting your audience based on when they signed up or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you might have one group that all joined in January, another in February, and so on. And then you can track how each of those groups behaves over time. Like, let's say you're looking at how many customers stick around. Cohort analysis lets you see things like what percentage of the January group is still with you after a month, 3 months, a year, and compare that to the other groups.
So you can see if, say, your January group is more loyal than your February group.
Exactly. That helps you understand what's working, where the problems might be. Maybe there was a specific marketing campaign that brought in a bunch of people who didn't stick around. That's valuable info.
It's like having a time machine for your data. You can go back and see how different groups acted and use that to make better decisions moving forward.
Exactly. It's not just about what happened, it's about understanding why it happened. It gives you a much clearer picture of how your business is doing, helps you make those smart strategic choices.
It's like having a secret weapon against uncertainty. You're not just guessing, you're making informed decisions based on real data and insights from your own customer base.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the lean startup. It arms you with a scientific mindset and a powerful toolkit to navigate the often chaotic world of startups and entrepreneurship. It's not about luck, it's about informed action.
It's about embracing the unknown, being willing to adapt, and always staying curious, which honestly are pretty valuable skills for just about anything in life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And what I love most about this book is that its principles aren't just for tech startups or even businesses in general. This lean startup approach can be applied to projects of all shapes and sizes.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me some examples. How could someone use these ideas in their own life, even if they're not launching the next big thing?
Think about it this way. Have you ever wanted to start a new habit, learn a new skill, or even just try a different approach to a problem at work?
Who hasn't? I feel like I'm constantly trying to level up in some area of my life.
Well, the build, measure, learn loop can be incredibly powerful in those situations too. Let's say you want to write a novel. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment or outlining every single detail, what if you committed to writing for 30 minutes every day? That's your build phase. Then you could track your word count and how focused you felt each day. That's your measure phase. And finally, you could use that data to adjust your writing schedule or environment for maximum productivity. That's your learn phase.
So it's like applying the scientific method to your own goals and aspirations. I love that. You're constantly experimenting, gathering data, and using those insights to improve. It takes the guesswork out of personal growth.
Exactly. And the same goes for testing a new marketing campaign, launching a side hustle, or even just trying a different way to cook your favorite dish.
It's about approaching everything with that same spirit of experimentation and continuous improvement.
Precisely. So,
Ah,
as you delve deeper into the lean startup, we challenge you to think about one hypothesis you can test in your own life. What's one small experiment you can run? What will you measure? And most importantly, what are you excited to learn?
remember, even the most successful journeys, whether it's building a billion-dollar company or achieving a personal goal, begin with a single step, or in this case, a single experiment. So get out there, embrace the lean startup mindset, and start experimenting.